I just know for a fact that Tony Khan's going to add some last minute banger to this pay-per-view, and he's going to make me regret recording this 6 days before the show. But I'm really excited for this year's Double or Nothing. I don't know about you guys, but to me, Double or Nothing always feels like one of the biggest shows of the year for AEW. And it takes me back to the first ever edition of the show, 2019. It was the first ever AEW show. There was so much mystery, so much intrigue, so much excitement, and that show ended up being one of my favorite AEW shows ever, even all these years later. And I don't know, Double or Nothing usually tends to hit for me. And I will say something that I think you guys might not like though. I don't think the show this year has been built up as strong as it could have been, especially compared to last year, but I think that's almost an unfair comparison because last year's Double or Nothing was one of the best AEW shows ever. And I feel like we say that about every show, right? But it really was the case for last year. I mean, you had Mercedes Moné versus Jamie Hayter in the final of the women's Owen, and then on the men's side you had Will Ospreay versus Hangman Page in one of the best pay-per-view main events that the company has ever produced. And the undercard had other good matches like Okada versus Speedball and the Anarchy in the Arena, where Bodies by Drowning Pool was playing throughout the arena. It'll be hard for this year's edition of the show to live up to last year's, but you know what? I'm still excited. There's a lot to look forward to. AEW pay-per-views rarely miss, so I'm just going to go through the card here and give you my thoughts on what I think will happen, on what I think should happen, especially heading into AEW's biggest pay-per-view of the year in August. All In. This is really where the road to All In officially begins. So let's just dive right in. FTR versus Cage and Cope in an I Quit match. Right off the bat, I feel like these two teams have been feuding for a while already, and that probably hasn't even been the case. I mean, it feels like Cope just came back, but also like he's been feuding with FTR forever. But I don't have much to say about this besides I feel like FTR are gonna have their work cut out for them. Not that Cope and Cage aren't good, of course they are, but you know, they're a little bit older. But every AEW pay-per-view needs one of these kinds of matches, right? A batshit insane match, which is crazy because they have this I Quit match, but they also have Stadium Stampede later in the night. So I still imagine this match will be gnarly, but probably not as gnarly as Stadium Stampede, that's for sure. With that being said, I feel like I had the tag division all figured out. That is until something not even involving AEW threw all my predictions into a whirlwind. WWE recently released the New Day and the Motor City Machine Guns. Now, if you would have asked me, I think the match they were building up to for All In would have been Cope and Cage versus FTR versus the Young Bucks, most likely in a ladder match. I don't know. To me, it just felt like that was the natural route to go. But now, I really don't know what's going to happen because the Young Bucks could face either the Motor City Machine Guns or the New Day at All In. Hell, they can throw all these teams into a tag team gauntlet match. You know, they can do a casino gauntlet match for the first time for the tag teams. Well, not for the first time, but for the first time at All In. Because this tag division is about to get ridiculous at a time where it's already starting to be built back up. But I've already yapped enough. My prediction for this is Cage and Cope finally get the job done. They finally win the AEW tag team titles, and they win their first tag titles together since I have no fucking idea. And I think FTR will be fine here. I think they'll be involved in another big match at All In, which again, now I have no idea what it'll be, but I am excited to see what these two teams do moving forward. So originally, this is where I talked about the opening match for the women's Owen Hart Cup tournament between Alex Windsor and Willow Nightingale, but I'm recording this literally as Dynamite is airing, and Willow just unfortunately announced that due to injury, she's gonna have to not only pull out from the Owen Hart tournament, but actually relinquish the TBS title altogether. And this is just very sad news. I had Willow pegged to win the whole thing. It was either gonna be her or Athena. That's what I said in the original cut of this video. But man, some things are bigger than wrestling. I just hope Willow has a speedy recovery, that she comes back better than ever, and I have no doubt in my mind that a big moment for her will come eventually. Now, with that being said, this throws a bit of a wrench into plans, and to be honest, I was already unsure of where this was heading. Before this re-recording here, I had either Willow or Athena winning the whole tournament and going on to challenge for the world title at Wembley Stadium. But it's been announced now that Willow's spot will be taken by a wild card. Now, my mind immediately went to that has to be Mercedes Moné, but apparently the match isn't on pay-per-view anymore. So that tells me if it's not on pay-per-view, then it's probably not Mercedes. I don't know, it could be, but that's just my initial reaction. I would think you save Mercedes' big return for pay-per-view. They also announced that but this match would be replaced on the pay-per-view actually by Athena versus Mina Shirakawa. And so I guess I'll just give my quick thoughts on that one. I think Athena is going at the very least to the final of this whole thing. I anticipate she's going to beat Mina here and be a force to reckon with throughout the whole tournament. And I actually think that now Athena is the clear favorite for this whole thing. But again, I have no idea what the plan is for the women as of right now. Hell, I didn't know what it was before Willow's injury. You'll hear me talk about it later in the video. I'm going to leave the later part of the video unedited where I think Mercedes Moné might slot in here. Because if she's not going to be part of the tournament, I still think she's going to be a part of the women's title match at All In. Because I don't know, initially I thought Mercedes was going to be in this tournament from the jump. But then when we didn't see her name on it, I was like, okay, maybe she's going to beat Tekla for the world title before we even get to All In. That way she walks into the biggest AEW show of the year as the world champion against the winner of the Owen Hart Cup tournament, right? So you'll hear me talk a little bit more about that when we get to the women's title match. But as of right now, I'm unsure of where this is going. Once again, I want to wish Willow a speedy recovery because this is very sad news. But I am very intrigued to see how AEW and Tony Khan pivot here because I have a feeling Willow is going to play a big role in their plans for the summer. But speaking of the Owen Hart Cup, I want to go to a match on the men's side now. Samoa Joe versus Will Ospreay. Dude, this is a match that I didn't know I needed, but I'm glad we're getting it on the pay-per-view. Again, I wish we would have had a little bit more interaction between these two heading into the show, but I mean, it's no big deal because it's a tournament match. I really am not hung up on that. And plus, I think they're going to kill it. I have high expectations for this. I would be shocked if this isn't a good match. I don't have much to add here. I think we all expect Will Ospreay to win this whole thing, right? I think this is the year that Will Ospreay finally wins the AEW World title in Wembley Stadium in front of his home country. Again, I'd be shocked if we see any other result. So I have Will Ospreay here beating Samoa Joe in what should be a good match, and Will Ospreay's probably going to go all the way. But while we're on the topic of the men's Owen Hart Cup, I want to talk about Bandido versus Swerve Strickland. The video package they played the other day where Swerve was in the Wild West area where we had also seen previous video packages with Bandido was actually shot really well, and it got me hyped. I think this match might be better than Will Ospreay versus Samoa Joe. I don't know if that's a hot take, but I have very, very high expectations for this one. Higher than Joe versus Ospreay, frankly. Now, I'm disappointed that one of these guys is going to have to be eliminated so early, but frankly, I'll take it because I would rather take a big match like this in the quarterfinals rather than Tony Khan being so overprotective with his booking, which is something I talked about years ago, if you remember. I wish all the matches in the men's tournament felt this big. I feel like they threw in a lot of guys who are obviously not going to be main eventing Wembley Stadium. Like, I don't know. I guess this is going to be my place to vent a little bit. This is a tournament for a world title shot at your biggest show of the year. I understand that Kenny Omega might still end up in the world title match at Wembley, but the fact that he's not in this tournament is kind of ridiculous to me. I mean, I don't buy for a second that Mark Davis or Jack Perry have a chance. I get it. You got to fill out the tournament somehow, but I don't know. I just feel like other names could have been included. Instead of having Andrade in the Stadium Stampede match, which we'll get to, you could have thrown him in too. But anyway, I think Swerve Strickland is going to win here. I actually think the final for the men's Owen Hart Cup tournament is going to be Swerve versus Will Ospreay, which should be a great match, which would be taking place at Forbidden Door, which would be kind of poetic considering they main evented for the AEW World title a few years ago. But next, I want to talk about the AEW Women's World title match. Tekla versus Hikaru Shida versus Jamie Hayter versus Chris Statlander, a four-way for the title. This is where I feel like the pay-per-view could have been built better, especially last year when you had Toni Storm feuding with Mina Shirakawa heading into Double or Nothing, but also Mercedes Moné feuding with Jamie Hayter heading into the women's Owen Hart final. I get it, those two women are out right now, and Tekla is the closest thing to a superstar you can have without the other two being around. I just feel like Tekla has been doing such great work, as I talked about in the video before this one, that she needs a true rival, someone who can actually bring out the best in her and make me believe that they have a chance at beating her. I'm not opposed to a multi-person match. I think this will be a good match, and they have actually been telling a story. I'm not gonna act like this came out of nowhere. I just feel like it could have been told better, it could have been conveyed better. But realistically, I don't think any of us expect Tekla to lose here, right? I'm more curious to see what'll happen after the match, because there's this big question of, will Tekla be the world champion heading into Wembley, or is this where you bring back Mercedes Moné to call her out? I don't know. I'm actually intrigued by it. Again, I'm not opposed to Tekla heading into Wembley as the world champion, but I also don't see her dropping the belt here. So this is going to be an easy Tekla dub, probably with some shenanigans, and maybe the real newsworthy stuff will come after the match. Here's a big one for me: Kazuchika Okada versus Konosuke Takeshita for the AEW International Championship. This is another one that I feel could have been booked better. I know, I'm sorry. I'm not hating. I'm just saying that the stop-start nature of this feud has been confusing at times. And I say that as someone who actually watches the shows. It's okay, guys. We're allowed to critique shows we watch. Relax. I almost feel like this was going to be the match for All In, but because of fans being vocal about how this story has been going, about what Okada has been doing and how often he's been on the shows, and Takeshita kind of treading water, that Tony Khan might have just said fuck it and moved it up to Double or Nothing. Which, by the way, I think this show is going to look amazing at the Louis Armstrong Stadium in Queens, New York. I'm actually hoping that they have the roof open, but I just checked the weather, and apparently it's supposed to rain the day of the show, so that's actually unfortunate. I really do hope we get the visual of the roof open, but I would understand if that's not the case, because as of right now, that show is sold out with over 14,000 tickets distributed. Shout out to WrestleTix, by the way. But anyway, this is the kind of match that I would love to see happening late in the show, with the roof open in the stadium and everyone just going nuts. But the reality is probably this is going to go on early with the roof closed. Not that it makes a difference, I'm just yapping. But yeah, this feud has been a little bit confusing. Okada hasn't been showing up as often as I would have liked, and Takeshita again has been booked really weirdly. I feel like Takeshita is one of those wrestlers who needs to win a big match very soon, and there's no better place for it than here. It's kind of like Darby Allin, right? I talked about it in my Darby video. There's so many wrestlers in AEW who have been on the cusp for so long that after a while, man, if they don't cross the finish line, then what am I supposed to believe in? You gotta take a risk like you did for Darby Allin. So take a risk on Takeshita here. I mean, it's not even the world title. Is him beating Okada really even a risk? I know that sounds like a ridiculous question, but I think they're both fantastic wrestlers who should be in the main event. So I think Takeshita should get the win here and send Okada up to the main event scene, if Okada is up for it, because at this point I don't know what's going on. He shows up every now and then, he locks in every now and then. I know he's still capable of great stuff, and hopefully this is the one that makes me buy back in. So yeah, I have Takeshita going over here, and hopefully finally Tony Khan commits to a huge push for him while Okada moves on to the main event scene, hopefully. So as of right now, there's only 2 matches left to talk about. Let's get to Stadium Stampede. This is one that to me felt really forced. You're telling me that Jericho versus Ricochet deserves Stadium Stampede? Like, look, man, I'm not complaining about getting the match. I know it's gonna be dope. I know it's gonna be wild. I know they're gonna do shit that's gonna make me laugh and cringe. And by the time it's over, I'm probably gonna regret ever saying any of this stuff. But the feud did not have this much heat to warrant this match. And I just hate that we're approaching that dumb WWE cliche. And I hate to bring up WWE, but it's because it's something that they specifically do that a lot of their fan base even doesn't like. But the dumb cliche of the same match happening every pay-per-view, no matter if the feud warrants it or not. And I'm so dumb, because you know what I thought the Stadium Stampede or Anarchy in the Arena match was gonna be this year? I thought they were building up towards Death Riders versus Bang Bang Gang, with Jay White finally having come back. But I'm a dumbass, apparently. That's not what they were doing at all. Which, by the way, by the time this goes live, Jon Moxley will probably have a match announced, because as of recording, he still doesn't have a match. Oh hey, I was right, they did announce a Jon Moxley match. I obviously think Moxley's gonna win here, but it should be a great match. Anyway, Jericho's team is also super random. I mean, I know he's been having interactions with the Hurt Syndicate, but having the Elite join him just feels super forced. I don't care. I would rather have Kenny Omega in a big match, and I realize that he can't do big matches all the time anymore, but if this was gonna be the plan, you should have just built it better, frankly. And then on the other side, you have Ricochet, Bishop Khan, and Toa Leona being helped by the Don Callis family and Mark Davis and Andrade. And the Dogs? Like, dude, what is going on here? Like, legitimately, I just don't know. Yes, I watched the shows. I know it's gonna be a good match. I know they're probably gonna play some other fitting song during it. And again, I'm gonna eat my fucking words. But I don't know, this thing feels really thrown together last minute. And I hate to say that I don't even really care who wins. I want Kenny Omega in the world title picture. He can lose this for all I care, as long as he just moves back up to the main event scene. As well as Andrade, by the way. But yeah, I just have no interest in Jericho in 2026, despite him being in better shape and taking losses. And Ricochet is good. good, but again, this feud did not warrant this match. So if I had to guess who's gonna win, I mean, I don't know, the heels probably. Let's go with the heels. But here's the one I'm most excited about, the one that I think has actually been built up pretty nicely. Darby Allin versus MJF, title versus hair for the AEW World title. Where do I even begin? You guys already know I'm a huge Darby Allin mark, but I'm also a huge MJF mark. So this one has me on the edge of my seat because before the title versus hair stipulation was added, I would have easily have bet all my life savings that this is where Darby Allin drops the title. But now that the hair stipulation has been added, I don't know why, I'm starting to believe that Darby Allin might have a chance to retain here, even if he drops it 3 days later at Dynamite. It's such a cool way to get the crowd to cheer for Darby in a state where MJF was likely to get cheered over him, because who doesn't want to see MJF bald, right? I think this is going to be a phenomenal match. I think the atmosphere is actually going to be really crazy, and I'm just excited to see my guy Darby main event a pay-per-view walking in as the world champion, whether he wins or loses. MJF is the perfect villain in this story, and he has played his part to perfection, and the Darby weekly defenses would be a nice way to give him an out for losing here. He flew too close to the sun, and when it finally came time to defend against MJF, he was just too beaten and bruised to sneak a win here. And man, it would be perfectly okay if this is where Darby drops the belt. But what if Darby Allin wins here? Like, just think about it. What if he actually beats MJF and MJF has to shave his head? I said it in my video where I talked about Darby Allin's world title reign so far, but this would be such an MJF thing to do. He's one of the most giving main eventers of this era, and hell, maybe he needs this for a movie role or something. I don't know. I'm gonna be on the edge of my seat, man. I'm not gonna lie. I might get a little bit emotional watching this one, and I know that's so fucking corny to admit, but Darby Allin's title reign is what brought me back to making videos, because I just wanted to talk about it so much. So win or lose, I think this is going to be very important to me, just personally, and I think they're going to tell a great story. My heart says Darby retains and drops it maybe 3 days later at Dynamite or at the next pay-per-view, but my mind says MJF is going to win here and the fairy tale will be over, but it'll have been worth it because we got it. It happened. So I think the smart money is still on MJF regaining his AEW World title here in Queens, New York. But damn it, man, I can't lock it in. I am so 50-50 on this one. I think Darby Allin has a fighting chance, and as long as there's a fighting chance, then I will believe. So final answer, I think Darby Allin will retain the AEW World title and we get a bald MJF. But if we don't, I will not be disappointed. So that's what I think is going to happen at the show. I think it's going to be a newsworthy show. I can't wait to talk about it afterwards. I'm sorry if any matches are added last minute. Blame Tony Khan. But once the show is over, I'll talk to you guys soon.